Hi guys! Listen, hello. We are going to do a story time. What am I doing today? I am trying to sell a property. Um, and so I'm just waiting for, I'm in the car, I'm at the local community college, and I kind of want to talk about that too, even though this isn't what the video is about. But this is to my men and my women, but definitely my young women. I want us to really, I'll do a more in-depth video about this, but I want us to really consider a period of not loneliness, but a period of being alone to focus on your purpose. I am in this community college and I lived in Prince George's County, um, 10 years before I moved to another county. And the local community college, I always liked, my son had he swam on one of their swim teams that practiced over here. Um, but I'm so amazed at the renovations in Prince George's County in Largo, Maryland. If you're in the DMV area, this is a great option. They have like a culinary center. They have a performing arts center. It's just amazing. And it seemed they have certification classes. It's just the laboratory, the library. I'm just so amazed. So we need to focus on our purpose. Let's not focus on getting the attention of a male or female. Let's focus on our purpose. Get on purpose and ensure you know who you are and what you want from a relationship, and then you can focus on other things. So I'm off my soapbox. Today I'm going to talk about so you think you want to get married. And you probably hear the rain, so it's so wonderful. Anyways, so you think you want to get married. So essentially, if you watch my when he asked for a break video, what you hopefully glean from that is that I did the wrong thing. I'm going to say this. I did the right thing. After that weekend of crying and doing research, I'm like, you know what? I'm not fitting to go back and forth. I, but I couldn't sleep. I was just restless. But we don't want to make decisions in our feelings, men and women. We do not want to make decisions in our feelings. And women, I don't feel like any feminists contacting me. We tend to get really emotional, and sometimes we make decisions when we're in our emotions, we're in our feelings. So, after I came down off my emotional high crying, I did call him very early on Monday. I guess not all weekend, I guess the next day I called him and I'm just like, let's just break up because it was too much. I said, it's too many unknowns. And I was crying because I was distraught. Like I literally thought everything was good. I was like, let's just break up. And if we're meant to be, we'll come back to each other. Um, and so there was an interesting one because it was like, well, can we still be friends and can we still talk? So essentially, I was crying so much. He's like, that's okay. He said that nickname I hated. This is my ex-fiancé. And he said, we're not on a break. And I said, we're not. And of course, let me tell you how naive I was. I was like, oh, okay. So for the next year and a half, it was like hell. And I will chronicle that at another time. But right now, I want to talk about the class at the church that I attend. First Church, what is the name? First Baptist Church of Glenarden. Pastor John K. Jenkins right now. He's the senior pastor. And they have these classes. Now, I didn't really have the spiritual rejuvenation until recently. And that's me going into like my mind, my other channel, like my mind and my spirit, everything had to be in the right place. But I've always had I always like taking classes. I always like learning how to, be successful, how to get out of debt, how to stay, whatever, how to be a good parent. I like classes like that. I like articles like that. I like research like that. So they had classes and at that I took a few classes before my son and I took the Alpha course. So one of the classes they offer is So You Think You Want to Get Married. And I think they have a book. If they do, I will link it below. And guys and gal, that class and that experience, that experience will forever change my life. And that was the thing that probably really started my spiritual awakening. But sometimes we get in a funk and we allow our emotions and our depression. That's what took over for about 4 years before I kind of really came out of it. Um, 4 years later, which was like a year ago, year and a half ago, or a year ago. So, so you think you want to get married. This was, at this time, technically, my ex fiance and I were engaged, and that's a whole nother story. I say engaged loosely, but I say ex fiance just to differentiate between my son's father. Some people say baby daddy or baby mama. I try not to say that, even though it doesn't bother me. I know it bothers other people, but I just use those two terms to distinguish between the two people. So my ex-fiance, yes, this is the one who I found out was a serial cheater, liar, this, that, and the third. I still was engaged to him. But something in my head, I heard about that course a few years prior. I'm like, we got to take this course. We didn't finish any of the counseling. We had tried to go to a second counselor, this older black lady. It was this white guy in Georgetown, this older black lady, near Arundel Mills Mall, if anyone's familiar with that area. So this was like me, like, we have to take this class. And it was a lot of craziness. I don't know why I still was with him. So let me tell you guys, this class, the first day of the class, and I'm nervous because he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll show up," but he was late. Now at the time he's coming from Aberdeen. So and Prince and First Baptist Church in Glenarder is in Largo, Maryland, or Upper Marlboro, Maryland, whatever. It's in Prince George's County. So it was a he used to, so in my mind I was like, that's a good sign. And at the time he lived in Baltimore City near Morgan State University. So I'm like, the fact that he, committed to this, I'm just trying to figure, I don't know what's going on. Should I stay with it? He was dangling a marriage. I really want to be married. One, because I started listening to the church, and I want to talk about that at a later time. And you really need to get into the word so you don't start making decisions thinking that you're trying to please God, but you're not listening to God. So anywho, so get in this class, and it's couples. So it's for people that are either engaged or they know that they're looking at marriage. And I didn't really know, like I said, much about marriage other than my grandparents. But anywho, so I'm in the class and he's not there yet. And in front of me is this beautiful couple. Have you ever seen people like they're gorgeous? But there's a beautiful couple. They're young. This is the time I was in my early 30s. So she looked like she was like mid 20s or maybe early 20s. And the young man looked like that as well. And if you from around here, you know what it is. It's just, they was just that type. I love them if they ever watch this. And we get the syllabi. So each of us get our syllabus, and yes. So let me just tell you about that. Was like, for me, I like school, and I remember my best friend say, "Don't get caught up. You're trying to figure out if you're gonna marry this person. You're doing the homework and stuff like you're a student." Because I really like academia. So the couple in front of me, there's like, "I just want Jenkins to marry me. And what is all of this?" And I start to see the requirements for this class. And even I'm starting to get a little, because at that time, my son was a swimmer. He was on my swim team. So I'm like, and I worked down in DC at this job, which was a fast tempo. So I'm a little intimidated about the course, and I'm looking through. And let me just give you, it's wonderful. So I never saw that couple again, because she was like, "I'm over it. Like, I'm not doing all this." Because the whole thing that was the first of 3 premarital classes. The class talked about, for the first, they said, "Listen, I'm not going to call that your fiance." It was a husband and wife couple, and I think they're counselors for the church. It was like, "I'm not calling that your fiance. You don't," and I think you couldn't wear your rings if you had rings in the class or whatever. It was like, "This is your potential." I was like, I'm just intrigued of how. It's like, okay. And they just start to go over things like biblically, first of all, they wanted to go over that syllabus. They started going over it, reviewing everything and the requirements for the class. And they started saying, if you want, I think, Pastor Jenkins or certain staff members to marry you, or do you want to get married to church, you have to take all three premarital classes. And maybe it's changed, and I hope I didn't mess it up. So already, my ex-fiance comes in, and we're sitting down looking at the requirements. I think the first third of I think it was a 10-week course or 12-week course. I think the first 4 weeks and the first 5 weeks I was like, what are they doing? I was even kind of, I was in that mindset too. I ain't gonna lie to nobody. I was in that mindset too as well, because I'm like, listen, I'm just trying to check my box. God is good. Da 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 da. I'm not. I mean, that's the mindset I was in. I mean, I wasn't that, but I could understand the younger couple. But I was still intrigued too, because again, I didn't have an example, so I really needed something. And so for the first part of the class is like, you required to figure out your relationship with God. I'm like, what is they talking about? What is they doing? This is me being silly, guys. But this is my background. I'm like, why? No, I want to know. The first part of that course is called, you have to purchase a CD or a DVD for Pastor Jenkins. And I think it's online. I'm going to leave the links because it's free now. I mean, online. He has to hit the video, hearing the voice of God. And I was like, what are they doing? But I was so intrigued too. It's like, you have to, how does God talk to you? Is God talking to you? If he's talking to you, are you listening? Oh, what? And so the video was just fascinating in itself. And they had scriptural references for everything about how at least our pastor goes into 10 ways. And I think there's many more, but 10 ways that God talks to you. I'm like, what are they doing this for? So they go into explain in each class. I think it's 2 hours. Each class they go in and they start to really get into marriage, the scriptural context of a marriage, what the purpose of a marriage is, and what the roles. They start to go into different books of the Bible about how it describes characteristics of a godly husband and a godly wife. And I'm just so intrigued. But I tell you, the first 4 weeks got me, because it's like they tell you to fast something. That's how I ended off of Facebook for 4 years. I fasted Facebook because I found myself, at my job, you can't have access to your cell phone, or you can't have access to your gadgets, because I'm all constantly traveling around. But so I was wondering, but I noticed I would get up in the morning and check Facebook. I noticed that I was always checking it when I had time. It was like idle time. I would be checking Facebook. So I was like, let me fast that. And they encourage you to do daily motivation devotionals. They said if you can't really get into the word yet, they gave us like radio stations or different people like that's how I discovered Dr. Charles Stanley. I guess everybody knew about him. I didn't know about him. And so, and I would listen to him in the morning, and I started listening to him throughout the day. And so they had an actual scripture for each week, and you were supposed to journal that, and they're going to review. It was like this whole thing. It was like homework and journaling. But let me tell you why I encourage anyone, if you're in a DMV, if you're in Prince George's County, DC, especially, because that's like right down the street, and you're thinking about getting married. And I think they have a So You Think You Want to Get Married for single people. And you're Christian. So I'm sorry, I should have caveat that. And you're Christian, take this course. This course, God saved me. But the people that taught the course and facilitated the course, it was just, I'm forever grateful. And the devil had me in a spirit of shame. And I'll tell you guys about that. I'll try not to be long. I tend to be long-winded. I'll try to edit more, but I tend to be long-winded. Go through the course. So one of the requirements, they said, listen, I think we did have one version. It was like, oh my goodness, were pigs flying here? So silly at that class. One young lady was a virgin. She had never had sex. But the rest of us, we heathens. So they said, listen, we can't, and even people that at the time, if they lived with their partner and they had kids, they said, we'll help you find. We want you to sleep somewhere else. You can still do your daily duties, but we do not want you in the house. And I just didn't get the whole concept, but I understand now what they were doing and why it's so important. They said, whatever you did before you got to this church or this particular denomination, or how we're interpreting things, we respect that. But if you follow this, we want to prevent you from being here, getting in divorce or having to go through counseling, because even with all of these checks that they did, they said there's still a spirit of deceit even in the church. And I just love their honesty about it. And I'm still not. I'm like, what? Really, people? I don't know. I'm not in that mindset anymore, because I think I always held like church people, like, for whatever reason, they're not going to do anything. But my pastor says it best. He's like, the church is a hospital for sick people, and not everybody. Some people have terminal illnesses. Some people have, superficial cuts, but you can't think about the church and think that they're not going to have people that will lie and cheat and steal and do wicked things, or that they don't have weaknesses. Not everyone's in the church for the same reason, or the reason of getting closer to God and people. I'm just so glad I learned that lesson, because I think a lot of people get disillusioned. They be like, that's why I don't go to church no more, because they did this. No, it's for us to have the spirit of discernment and to be cautious. We're supposed to guard our hearts. We're supposed to be cautious. I'm sorry, I'm going on my tangent. But they required you to do things that just was really, just like no sex. They really didn't want any physical touching. Didn't want any spiritual touching, and they explained why. They said because when you get into the spiritual connection will cloud your ability to think clearly. So they said, so they took that away, and they just walked us through. You need to get a medical assessment. You need to get a financial, like share your credit score, run your credit report. You need to meet his and her, meet the other person's family. They actually had one day dedicated to that. And that was a day where I was going to drop out the whole thing, because I don't have a relationship with my father. He's a deadbeat dad, or what have you. My mom and I were just kind of still, we were kind of getting close, and it was a falling out of my family over my aunt's situation, God rest her soul, and it was just a lot. And my mom is also disabled, so she couldn't really come. Certain times of the day she can't come out. So I really had no one. My ex-fiancé was TDY. For those not in the military, he was like at another training outside of the DMV area, and his parents had divorced like a year and a half before or right before he deployed, after 30 something years together. So it was just a lot. Like, I remember texting my best friend, and like, I just feel so alone. Like, I don't want to be here. And I felt like people were judging me. So I'm telling you how the devil plays on your mind, because I think about these church people now that I'm in my right frame of mind. These people are the most loving people. They don't take a lot of foolishness, but I haven't encountered anyone that's judgmental. I had a situation, I'll tell you guys about that later, and it could have turned a lot of people off, but because the person, I don't know, I'll talk about that later. But I haven't had anything like that. But it was just me feeling like I just felt like so lonely, and just so that was a lonely moment. Anywho's, so they had these requirements where you are to take the time to discover and to build and develop your relationship with God. Make sure you understand that, because what they told us at the end of this, you're going to ask God a question about this what you should do. And they said you don't have to just say, God, should I marry him? Because that wasn't my question. Even though I said God said no, that wasn't my question at the end of this. But anyways, at the end of the 10 or 12 weeks, you had to do all these things. It was like 100 question questionnaire. Again, I told you you had to share your medical records, your medical history. You had to do the credit and financial history. You had to meet each other's parents. They had all these questions about discipline. Do you want kids? All these questions. Are you saved? What do you believe? What do you believe about tithing? All these things. It was just an amazing experience. And I learned a lot of stuff that I'm now, as my son is dating, I'm able to share with him and just give him insight. And hopefully he'll take that. And when he's ready to decide, who he should marry, I hope he remembers that, or he comes back to me. I have something to reference. So I'm just going to tell y'all this. That class was amazing. I'll put the description in there because I think the fall semester's coming up. What was the question I asked God? At the end of our 10 or 12 weeks, I didn't have, even though I went on dates, I didn't have a lot of dating experience, a lot of interaction with the opposite sex as far as like in a romantic capacity or a sexual capacity. Um, and I was confused because I'll talk about that at a later time. I did break up with my ex-fiancé. I was like, I'm done. I'm good, and then we got back together through because of the whole engagement, whatever the case may be. Dangling that carrot, and I was just trying to grab for it, guys. I was just trying to reach for it because I really wanted to be married. I just had that desire. I wanted to have more kids. I wanted to just be settled. And I don't know if a lot of women, it's more in women or some men, but I really just wanted to have a family, have that person that I go to. We build together, we cry together. Let's do this. I scratch your back, you scratch my back. So I started seeing in my mind, it was just like, I I realized the signs. God was talking to me the whole time. He was talking to me from 4 years, 4.5 years prior. God was talking to me. And the fact is, a lot of us have that radio down, or we're not listening, or we're not being obedient, or we don't know is God talking to us. But I asked God this question. I remember driving to work. I'm talking, listening to Dr. Stanley. I'm praying. I said, God, I do not have a lot of relationship. And I think it's this and I think it's that, or maybe I don't want it to be. But can you tell me about his heart? Does he have a heart for you? Because if he has a heart for you, God, we can get through anything. That it was either that night, because I didn't have my sister. Summers I wouldn't have my son. My son would be with his father. I think I went to work, and that job, it was like finance. It was crazy. So I was working like late hours trying to learn about, how to do contracts and finance and stuff like that. And I think I got home. It's either we met up that night or the next night. I think it was that night. I said this prayer, and I said this to God. I said, God, listen, I love you, but I don't need these clues. Like I'm not, I know I have that critical thinking skill set. Thank you for it. But I needed to be like, bam, in your face, type of situation. I said, because I was learning through the class and through the biblical references and things, the scriptural references, how the importance of marrying the right person. And right, when I mean right, the person that God has designed for you. How important it is, vital that you go to him about who your life partner is going to be. So I was getting scared. I'm like, I'm not, I don't know. What do I do? This, that, and the third. And I'll tell you, I'll do a series on all the signs God gave me and how I ignored those signs, and just how now I can look back and I'm like, God, thank you. Thank you for watching the fools and the babies and the people that are like in a spiritual stupor or slumber. So the very next night, or that night, I can't recall right now, guys. We had all these things after he cheated that he had to do. He had to get a new phone. He had to cut contact. He had all contacts with his exes. He had to cut contact with his exes. There were all these things he had to do. Cut contact with his exes. He had to get a new cell phone. I'm trying to think things that for me is like to make me even feel comfortable. Cause I kept saying that's why I broke up with. It's like, once the trust is gone, there's nothing. And he's like, no, this is how he got me. Jesus, he wants you to forgive. And I told you he knew the scriptures too. He grew up in a church. So sometimes when you're not learning and people start using, and it's like, you got to forgive people. You can't just do this and discard people. And what's going to happen when you get married and stuff like that. And I was like, so I did get back with him. Anyway, we're at the end of this So You Think You Want to Get Married class. And I cried out to God. I want to say it was the same day actually, because I was like, God, like I was like tortured. I was like, I don't know what to do, like, because there's a lot of stuff towards right before that I shouldn't have even signed up for. I shouldn't have went through with So You Think You Want to Get Married. We should have just ended it. It was this one incident. Y'all gonna be like, Paula, why? I was like, I know. And we have a date night. We went to see a movie. I forget what the movie. We went to see, I think it was like one of the Annabelle movies. We went to see a movie, and we went to, if anyone's familiar with Arundel Mills, we went to, I think Buffalo Wings or Buffalo Wild, a wing place. So we had a nice dinner, and then we go to the movies, and we're talking, and, da 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 da. So at that time, he's like, we can't go back to my house. We can't go back to his house. So he literally, after the movies, we walked back to my car, and I drove him to his car. And in that time period, it's like 90 seconds. And, I gave him a little kiss on the lip. In that time period, I kept getting a call from an unknown number on my cell phone. So of course I'm not answering. If anybody know about me, because y'all learned about that in my whole sob story, I don't answer any numbers, because that could be Chase trying to find me, Bank of America. Oh, we good, Bank of America. I think we good, baby. But there could be somebody else trying to find me, so I'm not answering any numbers, and it looks weird. So we kept calling me. So finally, when I get home, I didn't have a laptop. No, did I have a laptop, or I had Eric's laptop? Or I think I had a regular computer. When I finally get home, I see an email from him, and it's like, yeah, that's me calling you from, and I wasn't familiar with that at that time, guys. Google number or computer number or something. I left my cell phone, I think it's in your car. I'm like, you weren't even in my car for like 3 minutes. I'm like, sweetie, I don't think you left the phone. We only went to 2 places. And I said, it's probably, we can call them, because the mall had closed by that point. I said, or unfortunately, somebody probably, normally if they find a phone, they'll steal it, the phone. And he was like, well, can you go check your car? I'm like, it's late. I'm not going outside. So even then, I always exercise in the morning. I always had tea. I didn't do my whole swamp drink for keto life. And I'll put the link for my other channel, guys. But I would always drink my tea and work out in the morning. And so he kept calling me, kept emailing. Have you checked? I was like, why would somebody do? I'm like, sweetie, I said, if I do find your phone, I could just answer it. Are you waiting for a call or something? He's like, no, don't answer it. I'm like, so think about that. So I get out to the car. Some told me I didn't go exercise, and I didn't even make my tea. I go out to the car, and I check, and lo and behold, in the passenger seat, I see his phone. So let me tell you what we do, people. I said, why is he so pressed about this phone? I said, God, I'm gonna check this phone. I know people say you shouldn't check people's phone, but I'm gonna check this phone. It's in a common area of my car. And if it turns on, that's you. Because I remember I just prayed, I think it was the same day. If it turn on, it's you. And if it doesn't turn on, I ain't had no business with nobody's phone anyway. And it turned on, and it was a Nokia phone at the time. My son had that phone, that type of phone. And so it turned on. It didn't have any passcodes, no biometrics or anything. And I go through that phone, guys. Let me tell you. I did go back in the house, and I made my green tea. And I just went through that phone. I went through that phone. I was like a phone forensic scientist type of thing. I went through that phone, go through that phone, and it makes a black girl blush, the things I saw on that phone. But what I noticed, it was just bad, guys. It was real bad. And because I had already been through it, we had our struggle love chapter every other day. And our struggle love, obstacle course. I had been so desensitized to the foolery. And like I told y'all, when he asked for a break, I like broke down. I'm crying. No, I love you, baby. I was just so desensitized to the whole situation. I could look at it more critically and objectively, and I started to look through. And I started to look through, and I saw that he called me the most. Ooh, yay! He called me the most, but it was another young lady he called just as much. And it was a lot more frequent contact because I noticed during our so you think you want to get married, like I couldn't. He's like, oh, I'm working overnight. I have a 24-hour shift. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Oh, I didn't have my phone off. Like I couldn't get in contact with him. And that was the same time, like the Discover, like I had my information like compromised at Discover and Target or something. So I didn't have access to my bank card at one point and my credit card. So I really, and I have a prepaid phone, so I couldn't, when you do the automatic payment, I didn't. It's like a little period, but we weren't talking as much, but we still good, right? And so you think you can get married pre-marital class, guys and gals. I called that young lady, and like I said, I wasn't crying yet because I had already been all cried out. But I called her and I'm like, do you know such and such? And she's like, oh yeah, that's my boyfriend. He who? That's your who? That's what? That's your. I was like, well, it's funny that you say that because that's my fiance. And we just finished this premarital class and we were going to sign up for the next one. And she was like, well, that doesn't make sense. And of course, I started crying. That's when I started crying. I said, because I looked through their text. And she at the time, so I was like 33. I think I'm 33. I'm trying to get my numbers together. So she was like 38. And that's how much I did my little forensics. I was taking notes and looking at everything. And she was talking about how she thanked God that she found him, and it's a lot of craziness out in the dating, and she's ready to have kids and get married, and she just seemed like a good woman. She's a beautiful Black woman, natural hair. Not saying if you don't have your natural hair, but she was just a beautiful natural hair, and it just seemed like she was a good woman, a good person. And like I said, she said that's her boyfriend, and I proceeded to tell. I said, listen, and I didn't know at this time until I was able to really reflect and I'm in my right frame of, like really in my right frame of mind, how many signs I missed from when he was in DC the first time. And I said, do not have children with him, a child with him. I said, I'm not going to fight you for him. I said, I'm ending it. It's done today. And I said, if you believe in God, like I'm the person that's giving you that call, that sign, that red flag that he is not a person. I said, maybe he will be one day, but not today, sister. And I said, I'm not going to fight you for him. He's yours, but please end things with him because it has been such a disaster. And she was like, thank you. And I was crying. I wasn't like calm. I was tearful at the end of it because it was like what I needed. So let me tell you, I broke up with my ex-fiancé via email. And I think I think I called my son's father, not about the situation, but how to block people. Cause I didn't really know. You just go Google and research it like that at that point. So I was still unfamiliar. I'm still a little too now with technology. So I really didn't know. I was like, and he told me how to do it. I was like, I never want to see anything from a certain person. And I didn't tell, he probably knew, but he was just like, well, you do this. I said, I need you to do step 1, step 2, step 3. That's the type of person I am. And I just do. So I tried to recover. It's like, I think I deleted everything. I think everything is gone because I just didn't want any memory of this person. I blocked him. My son's father sent me things how to block. I blocked him on everything, Facebook, all my email. And we both work for DOD. I'm a civilian. He, of course, isn't at the time active duty Army. I blocked him from that. Like, I was just like, I want no contact. I broke up with him. And what he said, let me tell you, I said, so I just had a conversation in the email. We are no longer together. I don't ever want to talk to you again. That was how I forget. I wish I had. I'm trying to see if I can retrieve it. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I found your phone and I put his nickname for the young lady. I talked to such and such, and I won't reveal. I talked to such and such. And you know what he said? Who that? What are you talking about? So I knew enough, guys, because my son had taught me how to screenshot. I screenshotted it and I sent it to him. And I said, okay, Because, you know, people, they lie. And what I learned from him, he used to tell me a story. He's like, never admit, you know, if you get caught, never admit it or whatever. I just remember stories. I mean, people are telling you about their character. Because he was kind of funny. So I kind of, when he would tell the story anyways, but he couldn't lie anymore because his now is in your face. And I said, don't ever talk to me. I will send you everything. I will send you. And a lot of people got on me. I said, I'm not trashing anything. I'm not going to destroy anything. I mailed his phone back. I said, I will mail your phone back. If you have anything, that's yours. I will mail it back to you, and anything that you've given me, I will, I didn't tell him all that, but I'll tell you guys, I mailed his phone back. Any clothes that was his that he left, I sent back to him, and anything else, I just donated. Like he gave the gifts that he gave me and things like that. I just donated it, cause he gave me like, just anything. I just donated it. So I'm just telling you that class, this is where the devil brought the shame. And it's around that period where I made a lot of decisions, especially financially. And the devil, and I allowed that. Because instead of like thanking God, like I did thank God. I knew enough to like, God, thank you. But it's like something else came over me. It was like an overwhelming, I felt hopeless, I guess. I felt grateful, but I felt hopeless. Like after my son's father and I broke up, I felt very hopeful. Like, oh, I'm going to find, someone to grow old with. But after that relation, for some reason, it was like a doom, like a sense of hopelessness. Like, this is it. Like, I done messed it up. I done wasted 6 years, my childbearing years on this person. I felt so hopeless. And even though I was alive the last, few years, I was just like a zombie, guys. And I still went to church, but there was like a lukewarmness there. I couldn't let go of God's hand because I could always look back to that period in my life. And I know I was awake enough he saved me. And the thing about it, I didn't ask God, should I marry him? I asked him, does he have a heart for you? And what I gathered from that, he's like, my child, like, I'm not sensing he has a heart for me. You're going to be on your knees. You get married to him. It's not going to be like, oh, God, thank you. You're going to be on your knees for comfort and prayer. Like you married this joker. And when I talk about the shame, it's like those two, so do you think you want to get married? And I had joined the financial prosperity partners, the financial, and anyone know, you all see my sob story, and just in general, that's been finances and financial management and making financial decision making and prudent decision making, and that has been riddled to me since I become an adult, and really since I got pregnant is sort of when like my financial just issues started and poor decision making. So I was in this financial ministry at the church. This church, they own something. I'm not saying they perfect, but because I allowed the devil to plant that shame in my mind, the group that I was in, everybody had their stuff together. And instead of me focusing on the principles and focus on the loving team lead and leaning on people, I dropped out of that group and made two decisions that is why I'm in the situation I am in today as far as financially. So that's a whole nother side, how that shame. But I want to go back to, I felt compelled to send a thank you email to the instructors. And I did. I sent it to them. I was like, thank you so much, because of your wonderful teaching and teaching us how to understand our relationship with God and just everything. I'm not going to continue this relationship with, this guy and thank you. Because I know it saved my life and the life of my future kids and my son and everything like that. So the lady responded, the wife, the teacher, and responded. She's like, that's why we do this class. Well, thank you. Would you mind coming to the next class and sharing your story? And this is what I mean, like the shame overtook me. And it's nothing to be shameful for. I kept dodging her. So I acted like I was like, oh yeah, my son has a meet here. He's doing this. What about this day? She's like, oh, I can't do this day. We started going back and forth. I could have worked with her schedule, But I was so ashamed. I didn't want to tell anyone. It was like a lady that I went to school, not a lady, but a really nice one. She was a friend definitely in middle school, and she's I would say a friend now, but you know how you just friends that you know. She's a beautiful spirit, but she was in the class with me, and I just didn't want to tell anyone like I didn't get married. So even though, and that I don't know, I'll talk about that at a later date, but it just took me a while. I just felt so shameful about that, and just hurt, and I didn't want to tell anyone. But I realized what I did is like maybe my story, hopefully telling you and whoever listens, is you get signs. If you are Christian or whatever your faith is, you have to get confirmation from God that this person is the person you're supposed to marry. God will confirm. You have to do everything that you need to do to hear him. For me, we had to do devotions. Secular. These are the words I'm using. I didn't listen to regular music. And I listened to gospel music, but I definitely listened to Dr. Charles Stanley, and I did the devotions in a journal, and I just quiet, and I didn't have any social media. And I'm telling you, when you do those things and you take all that stuff away, all that noise away, you're gonna hear your thoughts, you're gonna hear God, it's gonna be uncomfortable at first, but it's just, I don't know, this class, they just walked you through that, and I didn't marry him. And I say now that I look about his violence, his outbursts, some of the things he would say to me, like, I could be dead, guys. Because it seems like a lot of men and women, they don't accept rejection well. I don't know how long I could have taken it, especially if my son, Eric would have maybe felt some type of way as he got older. Like, why is this dude treating my mom that way? If we had kids, it would have been hard for me to sit in a relationship like that with my son. And if I had future kids, I would have left. He would always threaten me with violence about that. And so and I'll do a video later about that. I was serious. Like, I mean, I went no contact. And it was a situation with $700. I'm going to do a separate video on that. And he was like, I will give you your $700. I was like, okay, I gave him my bank name, my first and last name. You can go and deposit money in the bank. This is one of the last, this isn't the last, this is one of the last kind of like, again, I still didn't talk to him on the phone or whatever. He was like, well, I want to meet up at the mall. And I was like, why do you have to meet up at the mall to return money? I was like, I'm a single mother. If you really want to do the right thing and just return the money, you just do it the right way. And he was like, well, I just want to do it in person. I said, I'm not going to meet you in person. You know how to return the money. And I feel like, people, they do things they want to harm the person they're with. And I just had that feeling. Again, listen to God, listen to the discernment. Really, you don't need closure. That's another video I'm going to do. I may do it right now. You do not need closure. Okay, you do not need closure. You don't need to have one final meeting. Let's go through all the good times. No, we are adults. If you're adults and you know that you all don't want the same thing, then that's just the way it is. You don't need to have one final meeting, one last roll in the hay. You don't need any of that. You just, I wish people, it depends. I'll be honest with you guys. I did not wish him well. I did not wish him ill. I'm just being real with y'all. Church people, y'all so church, don't get off of this page right now. I'm being real with you. I didn't wish him ill, his family ill, but I did not wish him well. With my son's father, I wish my son's father well. Now, I'm at a different point. I ended up forgiving my ex-fiancé and stuff like that. So, I still not in a wishing the well mindset. I just don't, that's to me, that wouldn't be sincere. And maybe that's where I want to get one day, but that wouldn't be sincere. I don't wish you well, but I don't wish anyone ill. I'm not going to go on. How some people feel a need to say that, oh, I wish you well. And I don't, no. Because it was just such a malicious intent, and the lying and the cheating, and just, it was so deliberate. It was meant to hurt. It was meant to, and that's why I came away with, like, I told you for a while, I couldn't even really look black men in the eye other than my family members. Like the guys in my family, they may have a lot of issues, but that's not one of them. They have made issues with substance abuse, which then may make them violent in that way, or just they can't be responsible, but they're not like deliberate, like out to like destroy you, your life. Or to take, I wasn't used to that. So I really couldn't look at a lot of black men at work. It took me a while that I could look at them in the eye and not see someone that just hates black women. And not to get on the race thing, but I really, for a while there, I was like, black men hate black women. They literally hate them. And maybe it's vice versa. I just really thought that. I'm like, they have a hatred for them. And I can go into that in another, like, why my mind stayed. I try not to, hopefully I've come out of that thought. I kind of think I still have it, but it's more objective. But I was in my feelings at that point. I was like, they really have a hatred. Because even if you listen to the one that he had cheated with me, he admitted to before, and the young lady that called, they both had they had poured out their heart to their experience with black men, and he was doing the same thing. So anyways, so you think you want to get married, I'm going to put the description. I know sometimes, guys, we want things when we want them, but you don't want to be married to the wrong person. You don't want to have a child with someone that's not, is the wrong person to have a child with. So I hope this helps someone. Like, share, and subscribe. This is probably super long. But I hope this helps someone. Don't be ashamed. I know sometimes we look at our count and we look at our age and we say, man, I put in 5 years. I put in 7 years. I put in 10 years. Sometimes we have to just continue to be the bigger person and to just bow out, tap out, bow out, and just, it's a sunk cost anyway, or the time. You've already invested it. There's nothing you can do. You don't need to add a lifetime to that. It's going to be a lifetime of misery. If it's 7 years of misery and back and forth and foolishness, that's why I thought it was chaos and confusion, back and forth, and just thinking about it makes me tired. Anyways, like, share, subscribe. I hope this helps someone. And all right, bye.